What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Nerd Media. And last night, Andor Season 2 dropped its 3 episode premiere. And guys, I'm so glad to be back with this show. It's such a fun show and such a phenomenal piece of the Star Wars universe. Unfortunately, it got dropped with 3 episodes, and that's how it's going to be for the rest of the run of this show. But this will be my review for the first 3 episodes of Season 2. I'm going to be splitting this video up into 3 chapters, do one review for Episode 1, and then one for Episode 2 and Episode 3. So if you want to hear my review for a specific episode, you can jump around the timestamps that are in the description or just that show up on the little search bar thingy at the bottom of the YouTube video. So guys, I'm Nerd Media. If you guys are new to the channel, I talk about movies, TV shows, and comic books all the time. Today we're talking about Andor Season 2. We also got stuff like Thunderbolts, The Accountant 2, The Last of Us Season 2, all of this stuff coming out that we are covering on the channel. So with all that being said, if you're new to the channel, stick around, watch my review, and if you're just a returning viewer, welcome back. And with all that being said, let's dive right into the Andor Season 2 review. So guys, diving into Season 2, Episode 1 of Andor, this was the first episode back, and this takes place a whole year after Season 1, which kind of lines up with the real life timeline of this show, where it's been almost 2.5 years since this show came out, and it's been around a year time jump. So it was a very fun experience to jump back into the show and to get that really fun opening sequence with Cassian trying to fly this ship out of this place that he is in as a test pilot. I thought that was a lot of fun. And guys, again, this show is just outstanding and phenomenal with its visuals and the cinematography, and that stands out in all 3 episodes. But this one was very fun, and I really enjoyed that opening, like kind of getting us back into the world in a fun way with Andor. It was a lot of fun. And in the weird, like strange way, this show feels just as fresh as it did in the first episode of Season 1. I just don't know. It just really had that good vibe to me. Like we are witnessing something just totally fresh and brand new, even though it is a continuation of last season. And I just really enjoyed this episode. I love the conflict that Cassian got into later on with that group of people in the woods, and how later they get into a divide, and just there's a whole entire conflict going on with them. Meanwhile, there's stuff going on with Bix back on a different planet with her and her trauma and everything. She actually is as much of a main character, at least in my eyes, as Andor is, and I really love her in this season so far. I think that the role that she has played in the first 3 episodes is great, and I love seeing characters like her return and seeing B return, the droid. It was a lot of fun to get back into it, and I just really enjoyed this episode a lot. One thing that I just want to throw out there that may just sound totally just ridiculous to some people if you're still watching this is just the fact that the 3 episode thing and this coming out at 9 o'clock at night, I think really affected my viewing, because I watched 2 episodes last night and then one today. I think me just being really tired really affected how I viewed the show, and knowing that I had more to watch, I think kind of dampened my experience with these 3 episodes. I am not going to let that happen again, because this is just a fabulous version of Star Wars and a fabulous take and dive into the different, like, darker and more mature areas of that universe. And that stands out so much in this episode and these first 3. It is just so unbelievably great, and it really is a phenomenal TV show. And unfortunately, Disney is just dumping it onto their platform, which sucks, and that does definitely dampen the experience some people like me may have. But it was just such a fun time. The first episode was great, and I think that although I don't know if Season 2 is on par with what Season 1 was, obviously being 3 episodes in, I still think it's phenomenal and that it's great. Diving into Episode 2, this was probably my least favorite of the 3, but it's kind of the in the middle before the total climax of this 3 episode arc happens. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on with Mon Mothma's character, that we see with Bits going on, that we see with Andor. There's a lot of great stuff that goes on in this episode. It's definitely heavily leaned towards more of the intense and action packed areas, because we do see a big conflict and we do see that divide with Cassian and the group of people that he runs into there when he's trying to go meet one of his pilot friends. It's very, very intense, and it gets very crazy very quickly in that area, and I just really enjoyed it. And kind of the seeing that the Imperials are just going around checking people's homes and doing inspections also adds a layer of intensity for the other side characters, which I thought was very, very great. And I loved kind of seeing how, yeah, the Empire would do something like that. So I enjoyed seeing that take place and kind of how that was handled. I thought was done really, really well. We get a bunch of Mon Mothma stuff in this episode, which was great. And I think that she is probably one of the highlights. She was one of the highlights of season one for me. And she's not quite one of the highlights of season two quite yet, but I am definitely enjoying her side of like the story and how her side really still matters and how everybody's different sides of the stories matter. And I just love that. And I love how all of this is eventually going to collide together. And I think that that side of the story, while it is more complex than the other two, it is definitely entertaining and very, very well done. And I just really am digging that, and I really did enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I'm really liking the structure of the 3 episode arcs. I again just don't like how they're dropping all 3 episodes. I mean, if they were gonna drop all 3 episodes in one day, that's totally different. But if they're gonna do it at 9 o'clock at night, that's just like ridiculous to me. But I'm really enjoying the way that the 3 episode arcs are being structured, and I think that the way that I was very interested in that kind of format or kind of setup for the second season, and the way that I felt about that back when it was announced, I think is definitely paying off now. And I definitely think that that concept that I was excited for is now being paid off in a really great way. And I am definitely excited to see how the rest of the arcs are going to go, because I personally am digging that format, just not the drop all of them at one on in one night kind of thing. I'm really digging the 3 episode arc format though. Getting into the episode 3 review, oh my god, this is my favorite episode of the 3 that we got. So climactic, so many insane things happened, and it was just so crazy. I think this is probably one of the most mature episodes we get of Andor, including season 1, because of some of the stuff that happens with Bits. It was very crazy. I really enjoyed this episode a lot, and the climax of this 3 episode arc I think was beautifully and very satisfactory paid off. It was paid off in a very satisfying way, and I really dug that. And guys, it just feels so great to be watching this show again. I really enjoyed the intensity and the action and like the intercuts and edits that we got in this episode too, because we had some really intense stuff going on with the Empire and Bits and her whole family, and then we cut back to a wedding where they're all dancing. I really thought that the edits there were really well done, and I kind of liked how they kept going back and forth with that kind of cool parallel. I thought that was really fun, and I just really think that the stuff that we get with the Empire, like in the home inspection, very intense stuff and very just not really enjoyable to watch kind of stuff, but it's still really good and really like well done and well fleshed out. But I'm very glad that we are through with that arc of the story, because I don't think I really want to see that kind of stuff, and I don't really enjoy seeing that kind of stuff in like films and shows. But I thought that the intercuts and the edits were great in this episode, and it was just so much fun. And honestly, after this episode, I would go far as to say Bits is my favorite character of the series so far. I think that she's great, and I really have been enjoying seeing her character, and after what she went through in season 1 and seeing how she is handling that and how it is making her more alert and more concerned and more just like paying attention more to stuff like when stuff arises. And I really enjoy that, and I'm liking her character. I'm loving her character a lot. And unfortunately, I feel like we're going to be getting some tragedy almost every episode arc, because we do unfortunately see some deaths in this episode that I didn't see coming, that I thought were just like, oh, that sucks. And I love how when we get a death that really impacts Cassian and Bits, it really just again capitalizes on the fact that the Emperor and the Empire sucks, and that they need to take them down because of the things that they are taking away from them and making them go through. Now, obviously, we know the ending to this story, but it's still just so like it gives you such an adrenaline rush to be like, yeah, we gotta take them down. And I love that, and I love how the show is still able to do that, even though we have seen that for a whole season and we know what the outcome is. I think that they're doing that in such a phenomenal way. Yeah, I mean, overall, this was a very, very strong and very fun start to get back into this show again. I am probably, and I'm going to try to not always mention the fact that the 3 episode drops at 9 o'clock at night are affecting my show watching. But it kind of did with last night, but I'm going to try to either just not mention it or just not make it so that it does affect it. But again, stupid decision. I'm done talking about that for good now. Hopefully, it just kind of just ruins the show for me. But I am loving the show so far. I'm loving it. Season 2 is great. I'm very excited to see the next few episodes and the new character arcs that we are going to go on. We have 3 weeks left with this show with the 3 episode drops, so very exciting stuff. And I am loving the show, and this is just genuinely some of the best Star Wars stuff that we have gotten ever. I just love that the new take and the new diving that we're going into with this world and how they're really just building on that in season 2. Great stuff. Peak Star Wars. I'm very excited to watch the rest of the show. Let me know what you guys thought of the 3 episode premiere of Andor in the comments down below. And if you're new to the channel and you stuck around this long, first of all, thank you so much. Clearly, I said something that you liked, or maybe I said something you didn't like and you wanted to see what other opinions I had. But if you guys still enjoy this video, subscribe, turn the notifications on, and like the video. And with all that being said, guys, stay tuned for more videos coming on the channel this week. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.